Kate.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I like your girls
Oh,
on top t-shirt. Super cool.
well, yeah, I've got about a million of them now, but I'll have you soon. I'm pretty sure. I'll crack on. So I suppose I'm really interested about like the presentation that you delivered to secure that. It seemed like it was quite intense. Can you tell me what was in it
Yeah.
specifically?
Yeah, so I had like the very first slide said sorry, because I say sorry all the time. I just throw it into sentences and people are like, what? And I'm like, no, I don't mean it. I'm just British. So I had that joke as an icebreaker. But no, I had everything in, I think, ideas for like, architecture, the style within it, like this kind of like brutalist and Midwest, and also just kind of taking the idea of like, I used to work in like temp in a lot of offices, and there was a lot of like older computers that were really archaic and didn't work, and I thought, oh, it'd be really fun if the TVA, like, they're top of the tree, but actually they don't have like this really crazy like futuristic technology. Like, it actually looks a bit more, you can't quite place it in time. And obviously, like, I'm sure people see in the trailer, like, I was inspired by a lot of sci-fi movies like Brazil and Metropolis, and Blade Runner, obviously. And I had an amazing production designer called Kazra, and I remember when he pitched, there were pictures in my pitch of like weird old computers and like buttons and like, I don't know, a monitor from NASA, and he had some of the same pictures as me, and I was like, oh my god, you're in my head. And like, and he's a genius, so it was really fun working with him. But I think basically my pitch was really just kind of everything in my brain just downloaded. So yeah, so I had the ideas for like how the TVA would look and feel, and it was really important to me that it felt like a really, like, it's a fantastical scenario, obviously, and we took from the comic books with like the rows of desks that stretch off into infinity, and I definitely wanted to bring that into the design. But I think as well, I wanted it to feel like a real living, breathing space. And I was really inspired by like films like Eternal Sunshine and also Scott Pilgrim, which are very heightened, but they have these amazing practical sets, like where you'd see the actor walk off one set and onto another. And I think for me, that always helps me sell the reality of a more unusual space. And so like something that me and Kazra spoke a lot about was like, like for example, in episode 1, you see Loki and Mobius like leave the elevator and they walk down the hallway and they go into the time theater. But that was one giant set. And I think alongside that, the other thing I was pitching to them, because it's like a lot of information.
No, I love it.
It was so big because I just had so much stuff. But the style as well, like there's a mystery to it, obviously, running through it. And so I love film noir, and we had detective stories kind of as a reference, and my DP as well, like she loved that idea of Autumn. And so we really went with that in terms of the look of the TVA. And I think like Seven was a big reference for us. I think people will see that immediately from just like how we're filming it. And there's an exact reference, like a needle drop reference to it in episode 2 for any of the sort of big fans of David Fincher. But yeah, so I had that, and I had casting ideas. Like Gugu was in my pitch document because I'm in love with her, and I was like, she'd be amazing. I had characters.
And there's a lot of British people brought over. I feel like this feels very, very like, was that something, even the stuff that you reference as well? Like, I know like Terry Gilliam is like American, but he's British. And Brazil feels like a British film, and like Edgar and all that.
I don't know. I guess it's just like kind of like what I love watching. And I grew up in Southeast London, and there's like a lot of brutalist architecture. Like A Clockwork Orange was filmed down the road from me, and I guess like some of that probably just comes with me being British. But with the cast, it was really unintentional. Like obviously Gugu is someone that I was like would be amazing. Wumi is someone that read for the role and just blew us all out the water. And we actually reshaped that, because that role was originally written as a male character, but we did like open casting, and she was incredible. And I think I find that really exciting, because I feel like some of my favorite women in sci-fi, like I think Ripley in Alien was originally written as a male character, and Cara Drayton. Yeah, I just think it's cool, and like
my fave.
Yeah, exactly. I just think it's so exciting that she can kind of fit into that group of, I don't know, just badass women in sci-fi. So yeah, so that was cool. But no, I think the weirdest thing is that Tom, Wumi, and Gugu are all from RADA within the same 3 years, which was like not intentional. It just sort of happened, because obviously they all got the roles at different points. I think Owen is like Owen and Tara are like 2 of our only American cast members, which is so fun.
You got to throw him a bone.
Yeah.
So I love, because I wanted to ask you about this, about Alien especially, because obviously there's some really strong female characters in there, and I suppose I think also looking at, I think you've spoken a bit about identity, and interestingly, like they don't, it's like Wunmi and Sasha Lane's character, they don't have specific names, they just have like numbers, and even like Gugu, she's the judge. And I suppose, can you talk me a bit about like how that is and how you wanted to create these identities of these women, but also the identity I think Loki's going for himself, like where's he from, like who's he trying to be and stuff.
Yeah, no, I think with the numbers, that was part of our world building within the TVA. So we have like sort of like the military arm of the TVA, and they're called Minutemen. Except within our TVA, it's men and women. And like, I think that was just partly inspired by just the world that we built, really, that they all have numbers, and that's kind of how that's their names within the TVA. So yeah, and in terms of identity, yeah, it was really important to me, because I think just going on to Loki, like, you know, he hasn't had the amazing journey that he's had across, you know, the last decade of the MCU. Like, this isn't Infinity War Loki. It's, you know, the guy who stole the Tesseract in Endgame, who's from Avengers. And that, to me, as a storyteller, was such an interesting challenge, because he is in a very different place. And also, if we take a character that we have seen go on this incredible journey, what is he going to react in the same way by putting him into a new situation? That kind of nature nurture idea. So I was really excited by, you know, he's so chaotic, and we've put him into a place of complete order. So that alone, I think, is going to spark some interesting reactions from him. So yeah, but identity definitely, I would say, is something like a central question at like the core of the show and what we want to explore. And also just that gray area between good and evil, like, is anyone truly good or truly bad? And I'd say that echoes out across everything in our show. It's like an overriding theme. So yeah.
So with what comic books were you referring from, as well as, obviously we know what the established MCU canon is for this character, but obviously TVA is like something that's established in the comics. Like, was there a particular runs or arcs that you were looking for that you kind of included in this mini series?
I would say more so like we were just inspired by, like, you know, as people have seen, we have certain characters from the comics, but I think I would say like it's wholly original in the sense that the story is not from a comic. We definitely have nods and references to them. Like, you know, I'm sure if people look very closely at the TVA in episode 2, I've hidden some numbers in there from, like, you know, when the TVA was first in the comics, things like that. But I would say, I think what's exciting about this is that we were definitely, like, you know, like I said, I was visually inspired by how the TVA looks in the comics in places, and I've got nods to that in a few spots in the show, but it is a completely unique story, and it's Loki's story, and I think that is really exciting to me. So
and I want to talk, because I feel this is it still feels rare that especially in Marvel's world, that not we've obviously had, you know, Anna Boden doing Captain Marvel, we've got Nida Costa, and we had Karis Coughlin doing Falcon Winter Soldier, but like having a female director in charge of a male character is still something that's quite new. I wonder, I suppose in your experience, did you think that was a possibility, you know, because obviously, you know, you've come from TV with Sex Education, I've seen your short films as well, and so like for that, is there something that you felt that seemed like a possibility for you to be able to take control of a character who, you know, a male character is one of the biggest ones in the MCU?
I guess it's such a weird thing. I suppose I don't really think about, because, like, to be honest, like obviously my shorts are usually like quite female focused and they follow female characters, and that's usually what I tend to write. But interestingly, the projects I haven't written, I tend to end up directing projects around, you know, male led, like, you know, Sex Education. Asa played Otis, and Eric as well, Shooty. Like, they were kind of like, we had amazing characters as well, like Emma Mackey and Amy, and it's an ensemble cast, but Asa's the lead in that, was the lead in, you know, at least the first season of that show. And my first short film I did was with Idris Elba, and that was like directing him. And I ended up working with these really fantastic like men, I guess. So no, I didn't really, I just loved Loki, honestly, and I just felt like I love so many of the comic runs talking about his character. There's like that, I don't want to get this wrong, there's that Daniel Kibblesmith quote, I am Loki, god of outcasts. They see themselves in me and I in them. And I actually gave a panel to that, to Tom on our first day of shooting. it came out basically, I think the week before we started filming or something, like the actual print comic version. And I just love that quote. And I just think that for me is why I connect so much with the character, because I haven't always felt like I fitted in like so many people. And I loved like that kind of underdog story of seeing him like, you know, have room for change and for growth and reconcile with his brother, you know, I'm here. And I've been so swept up in Loki's story, and I was just like, whatever they're doing with that character, I just want to be part of whatever his next chapter is. So I suppose, yeah, I wasn't really thinking like, oh, I'm a female director, can I direct a male, like big male actor? I really didn't. I think for me, it's always story first, and I just love the character. So I felt very confident going in, being like, I love the character. This is what you should do. What do you think?
Give him to me.
Yeah, and they you know, they were into it. So that's great. I'm
So,
you know, oh, sorry.
No, go on. No, it's a great one to start. If you're saying this is a great one to be entering on, it is.
Yeah. Well, it's just like Lisa Costa. I just think she's awesome, and like Chloe Zhao and like Kate Shortland. There's so many cool women like directing on Marvel, and like I do think that, you know, like these are all incredible filmmakers. So like, what company to be in, you know? So
absolutely. Anyway. I was going to ask, because even just watching the 2 episodes, I'm like, oh, these are linking to Wanda and Doctor Strange too. And you've got Michael, obviously he went on from this straight onto that. I suppose how much can you tell me of how much this series is supposed, I suppose, kind of laying the groundwork maybe for what's going to come, and especially creating this new web narrative? We've had the Infinity Saga, now we're into Magic Kingdom.
Yeah, I would probably say, I would just repeat kind of what Kevin Feige I saw said in the press the other day, is that our show is going to connect with other things that are going to happen in the MCU. So that's obviously big responsibility and also very exciting. But yeah, and that's probably all I can say.
That's what I'm legally allowed to say. I saw on your Instagram that you posted a photo and Jamie Alexander left a comment underneath. What does this mean? Is this mean Sif's gonna come up?
No, honestly, I'm just like a fangirl, and I found like when I was announced as the director of this, like James Gunn and me now also follow each other on Twitter and talk. And I think that's the nice thing about Marvel, right? Is like, it sounds so cheesy, but like it's like a big family, right? So when I was announced as the director, it was suddenly like all these stars and people that I love were suddenly following me online, and I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. And yeah, so no, we're just pals like on the internet, but yeah, but it was exciting. Like obviously I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. But yeah.
Well, I was so excited when I was at D23 and saw you go on stage. I was like, oh my God, we've tweeted.
It was so surreal, honestly, like, because I got the job, like, so I had to pitch in Burbank, and then I remember that I went to meet Kevin Feige again in London after my big pitch, and I thought honestly he was going to do almost like the very sweet breakup talk of just like, you know, like, you did your best, but go in that direction, but thank you so much for meeting with us. And like, no, I remember he was just like, you know, we really want to work with you. And I was like, oh my God. And yeah, but he was like, but we need you to go to New York, like to meet Tom, like pretty much tomorrow. And I was like, yes. And yeah, and then I met Tom, and we walked around New York, and we spoke about the character. And yeah, it was just so much fun. And I remember that then I flew to D23 like a few days later, and it was surreal, you know, like me and Michael were on the red carpet, and the Lady and the Tramp dogs were in front of us. And I was just like, what is reality right now? This is very strange. But yeah, it was really exciting. And I hadn't been to like a big convention, to be honest, in America. So I was excited just by that alone, just as a fan of, you know, Marvel and Disney. It was just cool to be at the convention. So yeah.
Well, you're in it now. That's it. Thank you so much. I love the first 2 episodes, by the way. I cannot wait to watch the rest, but enjoy the rest of your junket.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.